Hello everyone, I'm Rick and thanks for joining me. Today we'll be looking at a few wired earbuds and IEMs. The $20 nice HCK StringSnow earbuds, the $40-ish TRN Audio Starfish IEMs, and the $100 Fosi IM4 IEMs. First, let's start with the earbuds. The nice HCK StringSnow come in three variants: a 3.5mm TRS with no mic, a 3.5mm TRRS with an inline mic, and a USB-C with inline mic version. Today we have the no mic version in 3.5mm TRS. So for the cost of $20 on the nice HCK website or $26 on Amazon if you need it faster, I wanted to give you some comparisons to basic wired earbuds with a 3.5mm plug that you might find at a local retailer. So I drove around looking for some earbuds. First, I stopped by my local CVS. No luck here. They no longer carry earbuds. Next, I tried Walmart for wired IEMs, and they only had a $6 on-brand earbud, and I didn't think that would be a fair comparison, so I didn't pick up that set. From there, I moved on to Best Buy, only to find out that my local Best Buy is out of business. What a shame there. My next stop was at Walgreens, and here I found the $10 Skull Candy Jibs. This one with a 3.5mm TRRS with inline mic. You guys probably remember this brand from the early 2000s. They were everywhere. And my final stop was at Target, and I found these $20 Sony MDR EX15 LPs. I think that these are the kind of earbuds that I might get if I was on vacation or going on vacation and just needed something simple that I didn't mind losing or damaging. Or a few for the kids to connect to their tablets and keep me from going crazy. Then I'd get the ones with the USB-C, and I wouldn't necessarily get these for the highest quality music reproduction. And now that we have something to compare the StringSnows to, let's get started. Out of the gate, the StringSnows have the best presentation. The Sonys are just fine as well. However, the Skull Candies are something like you might find at a discount store, so not great for a gift. Onto the build quality. The Skull Candies have this silicone cord, and in my experience, it tangles very easily and it's the easiest to tear. The driver housing is nylon, including the nozzle. You get the little Skull Candy logo etched in the rear. And the tip on this one is a TRRS because it does have a built-in mic and it's zinc coated with silicone on the end piece. You do get a set of medium tips as well as small tips with the Skull Candy. Next, the Sonys here, and these have a PVC cord. These do tangle less than the Skull Candies, and you also get a nylon slider with this one as well. The driver housing is all nylon, including the nozzle. The Sony logo is nice and crisp, and generally speaking, it looks like they used a better mold on these because the finish is all around nicer than the Skull Candies. And you have an angled TRS tip, also zinc plated. The Sony gives you a set of small, medium, and large ear tips. Onto the HCKs. The first thing that I noticed is that the cable is quite a bit nicer on these. Nice HCK states high purity copper with silver foil shielding, and compared to the other two, I'm already recommending the StringSnows. It just feels so much nicer and tangles the least of the bunch. The same goes for the driver housing. Aluminum on the back side and ABS plastic on the front side. The logo is nice and crisp. It feels high quality in your hands. The plug also has an aluminum end piece that I really like. It has this little contour that gives you grip, so when you remove it or insert it, you have something to hold on. And this is the first one with gold plating on the tips. With the StringSnows, you get a little cable tie, as well as an extra set of small, medium, and large silicone tips as well. Again, just on build quality, I'd recommend the StringSnows all day, every day if my budget was just $20. Onto specs. The Jibs here use a 9.2mm dynamic driver with frequency response of 20 Hz to 20 kHz, but they don't state their impedance or their sensitivity. The Sony uses an 8.9mm dynamic driver, frequency response claimed at 8 Hz to 22 kHz. There are 16 ohm impedance with a 100 decibel sensitivity. The nice HCKs have a 10mm dynamic driver, frequency response of 20 Hz to 20 kHz. They have a 32 ohm impedance and a sensitivity of 106 decibels. They tote all kinds of other features as well, but for $20, I'll take their word for it and just move on to sound quality. For testing these earbuds under $20, I pair them with my Etsy HAO3 dongle jack. This one here is currently at $54 on Amazon. Although, if you have the extra $10, I would definitely suggest you up it to the HAO5. So the Skull Candies are a very unnatural sounding set of earbuds, with a strong treble and moderate bass quality, but muddy. I get the feeling that I'm hearing a compressed mix, like something that you'd get on FM radio. Not impressed, but for $10, hey, you're getting sound. Next, the Sonys, and this one surprised me. I don't say this very often because I'm a look on the bright side type of guy, but these Sonys suck. Super bright and crunchy, even at low volumes. The mid bass is smooth, but lower bass? Where's that at? No lower bass. So for sure I have to call BS on their 8 Hz claim. Honestly, these are going to the trash after this review. I don't even feel comfortable giving these away to anyone. You all remember those giveaway AKG earbuds that we used to get with our cell phones? I think you'd get better sound quality with something like that. Now the StringSnows here. The biggest difference is the vocal clarity. So much crisper and cleaner than either of the other two. A slightly more forward mid-range than I like, but not bad. The bass is solid. While not super deep, still deep and punchy while retaining decent clarity. And the best part, the highs. I think the most common problem with cheap or affordable earbuds is that the highs can be shrill. Here they're well controlled, if anything slightly rolled off, which makes for a more comfortable experience. For $20, the Snow Strings are an easy pick. And yes, the Snow Strings are a much newer design compared to the Sonys or the Skull Candies here. But my point is, this is really all you're going to find when you go out to find something at a brick and mortar. So you'll have to decide for yourself if you want to purchase for convenience or if you can wait a day or two and order these online. Then I definitely say get the StringSnows. Heck, get 2 pair. The StringSnows really do give you great price to performance sound and great build quality to top it off. On to the IEMs. If you aren't familiar with the term IEM, it stands for in-ear monitor, and they were initially developed for stage performances to let musicians monitor themselves instead of using a loudspeaker faced towards them. They also helped isolate the sound going to the performer and gave them a certain level of ear protection, which really helped as environments got louder and louder. This also allowed them to move around on stage. And somehow, these pro audio devices found their way to music lovers, and now you can find them from $20 up into the thousands. So here we have our first IEM, the TRN Starfish. And a special shout out to my friend Andrew Choppa over at headfi.org for connecting me with the guys over at TRN Audio. I'll put a link to his reviews down below. Thanks again, Andrew. The packaging on the Starfish is very nice, similar to that of the StringSnows. The build quality steps up as well. We have a very nice braided cable here, although the material seems odd. I've heard of silver-plated copper, but TRN states that this is copper-plated silver. The cables are detachable from the housing, and they get the standard 2-pin 0.78mm tips. We don't get color coding here. You do have a small right and left etched into the end piece here. I do wish these would have been color coded. Would have been easier to get them installed if you switch cables frequently. As for the driver housing, it is aluminum on the back side with the silver star here. And as for that star-shaped structure, TRN states that it helps resolve standing wave traps. You do have venting holes alongside these stars as well. So aluminum on the back cavity, resin on the front cavity. The nozzle is aluminum as well. On the opposite end, we have our TRS cable, but this one does get an upgrade. We can now pull this TRS cable off, and then we'll look for our little dot here, line it up with the other dot, push in, and we can switch over to our included balanced Pentacon connection. So you get both the Pentacon and the 3.5mm single-ended stereo. Really great for the $40 asking price of the Starfish. As for extras, beside the balance tip, you also get a cable tie, as well as 9 ear tips, small, medium, and large, in clear, frosted white, and black. So all this for 40 bucks. You really are getting a lot here. On to specs. The TRN Starfish uses a 12mm beryllium plated dynamic driver, frequency response of 20 Hz to 20 kHz, 32 ohm impedance, and a sensitivity of 122 decibels. On sound quality, again this one was tricky. The first thing I did, as with all these earbuds, is find the best fitting tip for that unit. Then I got ready to do a listening session, and boy was I disappointed in the bass. I messaged Andrew to let him know that hey, the bass sucks. But then I thought maybe I missed something, so I decided to read through the manual. And there it was. TRN does recommend a 10 to 72 hour break-in period before listening. So I plugged the Starfish in to my headphone amp at my desktop. I brought the volume up to 70%. I hit random in Roon and set them aside for 3 days. And wow, what a difference. The bass was there. I do wish TRN would do this at the factory, but I also understand that that would require more space, time, and labor from the factory, which always equates to a more expensive product. So anyways, make sure you break these guys in if you decide to get a pair of these. After all that, the sound quality upgrade that you get from $20 to $40 here is ridiculous. And I get it, sometimes we're on a budget. You might have 3 or 4 kids, and if one gets something, the rest want one as well. So these can quickly go up in price with a bunch of kids. However, if you're just getting one set for yourself, do yourself a favor and consider these Starfish. The first word that comes to mind versus the Snowstring is balance. The sound is much more balanced. The vocals fall back nicely into the mix for much more natural placement. And this stayed true as I increased the volume. The bass is more accurate versus the Snowstring, and you start to add texture to it. The treble is nice as well, but slightly rolled off. And at this point I thought these could handle a better DAC. So I skipped my HA05 and I went for the $200 Quest Style M15i dongle. Now the bass improves, detail and clarity improve, and the highs extend into the air now, which you were missing on the HA03. The Starfish makes for a great pairing with the M15i. Versus the Snowstring, those get a little too bright with the M15i. I definitely wouldn't recommend that combo. So for $40, the Starfish are a well worth upgrade in sound quality, and another recommend at this price point. So now on to the priciest of the bunch. And again, in the big picture of what's currently available, these are all in the value category. The Fosi Audio IM4 at $100 is the most premium of the bunch. The packaging is larger, and it also comes with different accessories. As for the build quality on the IEMs themselves is exceptional for the price. Beautifully milled aluminum. And I love that inner mesh, that's that Fosi orange, it lends for a really nice accent. All aluminum housing, it is removable, and here we have a black aluminum nozzle, and you also get a second nozzle in brass. And Fosi states that the aluminum nozzle helps reduce sibilance, while the brass nozzle enhances mid and treble. So a nice touch from Fosi here. The braided cable is silver-plated copper, and on the IEM side, we have that same 2-pin 0.78mm connector. And here we do have it color-coded, so blue on the left, red on the right. But I think this is a half measure. I think it'd be more user-friendly if, instead of having blue on the bottom side, we would have a blue dot on the side of the cable itself and a blue dot on the side of the IEM. That way we can also connect with the correct polarity. Instead of reversing, we'd have the orientation correct. So I think that would have been a nice option to have, and it's an easy fix that they can do in the future, I suppose. Because as it is, you have a tiny right and left printed down there, and for these older eyes, it's a little tough. On the other side of the cable, we have a gold-plated 3.5mm TRS, and this one is not removable. You can get the optional 4.4mm Pentacon cable. And I have to agree with my friend Ed over at Old Guy Hi-Fi. No balance connection or adapter was a poor choice. Regardless of what you or I might feel personally about the balance connection on our headphones, it's a feature that the market is asking for. And at this price point, I think Fosi should have included it. You do get a nice carrying case though, as well as 3 sets of earbuds, each in small, medium, and large, which are used for tuning. And they're labeled bass, balanced, and deep bass. And these are cool and reinforce the idea that these IEMs are made for tuning. More on that later. As for specs, the IM4s use a 10mm beryllium coated dynamic driver, frequency response of 20Hz to 20 kHz, a 21 ohm impedance, and a 109 decibel sensitivity. On to listening impressions. This is not a neutral IEM. The Starfish is much more neutral and balanced. The IM4s present vocals more forward, fuller low bass, but missing some mid bass. The treble for sure is hotter as well, but not harsh at all. Even with their colorful tuning, they still retain a more refined sound quality than the Starfish. I think if you have the ability to EQ your music on your phone, you have a great time with the IM4s. Or if you're on your computer, like in my case I use Roon, and I can easily trim down the highs and push the presence back just a bit for a sound that's more to my liking. My favorite thing about the IM4s though is their shape, because they sink perfectly into my ears. They're super comfortable, and they really are a pleasure to have on. I just wish they were a bit flatter on the frequency response. Honestly though, for traveling, I choose the TRN Starfish because they sound so great, no tuning required. But for my workstation, where I can EQ with Roon instead of preset, then the IM4s do outclass the Starfish. And of course, if I had to buy a few for the kids, I'd go with the StringSnows. As with everything, there is not one best pair, but these give you some options at different price points. And I really do like all three. Well, that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.